This is like truly, I think, one of the only trucker hats that I think I can pull off. I cannot
Really?
pull off most trucker hats, I don't think. I think I have the same issue that you do. It's like too tall. This is like the perfect like height for me.
So maybe I just need to keep trying them on every single time.
I feel like you do. Because, well, this was like at Deer Valley. I was like, oh my God. Like, I thought we were going to have time to go back to change. And like, I had a different sweater I was going to wear. Like, I had a whole fit ready and like vibe ready. And thank God I put on like a little bit of face makeup and like mascara and my eyebrows and everything. But I texted, my hair was not done. Like, I needed a hat. I was like planning on bringing a hat and I didn't like bring one. And so I texted the girl that we were with and I was like, I really need a hat. Like, do you have like anything? Just bring anything. And she brought like 4 different options for us to try on. And Devin like looks really, really cute in a flat brimmed hat, which I think, or a final 5-panel hat. I think those are so hard to pull off, but you look so cute in it, Dev.
I looked cute that day, but I have since tried to wear it and it does not look cute.
What is a 5-panel hat?
There's like, I don't know how many typical panels are on a hat, but there's an extra panel, I think. There's like 5. If you like look it up, it's like a typical, it's like a very Colorado, like outdoor girly like look. But I don't know.
I was wearing it in that picture that you posted for Brittany's birthday. That pink hat.
Yeah. That one's so cute.
It has a really wide brim and it's like kind of flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like really,
yeah,
I guess the
it's
best
very
way is
Colorado
flat.
ski girl. Love it.
But so I was like, that does not look cute on me. Those like look really, really bad on me. So that was that.
I'm glad you found this one. This one's super cute. There was the cutest little boutique in Old Town that my friend Emily and I went to. We should go to it maybe because it was like so cute. They had so many like cute Arizona-y things. But we literally tried on hats and shirts for like probably 30 minutes in the store. And it was one of those like small boutiques, where you're like talking with all the girls working and they're like, oh, that one's cute. Like maybe you should get that one. And at the end we decided not to buy anything and we're just like, okay, like we'll be back, girl. And I just saw a TikTok like yesterday and it was so funny of these girls. It's like when you leave a small business and you didn't buy anything and you're like, I swear I'll see you tomorrow. Like I'll be back for that.
I'll tell all my friends.
It's so funny. But speaking of Phoenix, we are going to Phoenix for our podcast trip. And we are going to be doing a live stream while we're in Phoenix, which is so exciting. So if you want to join our live stream, all you have to do is subscribe to our Patreon. So not only will you get the live stream, you'll also get like tons and tons of bonus videos that we've already put out.
And our vlogs that will be coming from the trip too.
Yeah, and from our last trips, which is I think that's the coolest thing about Patreon and like bonus content. Like when I decide to subscribe to people, it's like that you get access to the whole past. It's like, okay, now's the time. And then you just have hundreds of hours to binge.
Yeah, I love when I find a new podcast or YouTuber that I love because then you can just binge.
Yeah, it's so
their content. Fun. And then once you run out, you're sad.
Yeah, literally. Well, welcome back to another episode of So Glad We're Friends. I'm Maggie.
I'm Devin.
I'm Brittany. I just remembered one of my questions. I'm going to write it down.
Oh, good.
I am so distracted because I think Willow is farting.
Oh, is it stinky?
And it smells so bad.
Out?
Yes. She never stinks like this. I don't know. I'm like getting concerned.
The extra mini thing you're talking about? Like the
what?
Fecal, their glands?
No, that smells different. This smells like rotten eggs.
Ew. How pleasant.
Yeah. Hold on. What's my thought?
Oh my God, someone's getting their fucking yard done right now.
That's so funny.
I'm already having a hard time hearing.
We are having a guest on today, which is so exciting, but that's first we're going to catch up. How was your birthday?
Why am I like, whose birthday? Well, it wasn't in my catch-up thing because it was kind of like, it was good. It was a good celebration.
What else would you like to talk about?
Well, I feel like in the spirit of friendships, okay, first, I just wanted to share, like, just people, just random acts of kindness. The painter people, like, when they were coming in, like, looking at our house to see what we wanted done, I had like all the podcast stuff set up. And so he like asked just a couple questions, just like out of curiosity. And then he like stopped by after the job was done just to like make sure everything was good. And he like got me a sign that says live on like record, what is it?
On air.
Live on air, like neon sign. And I was just like, that's so thoughtful and sweet. Like those are like little things, like especially just in terms of like he's a random guy with like a paint company to like think of that sort of thing and like get me like a little
like
neon
so
sign. I was
cute.
like, what the hell? Like that's the sweetest thing ever. It's just like little things like that. Like I don't know how much it cost him.
Like, did he go out and buy it, or like
Yeah,
did he go home and be like, oh, this is perfect for her? Like what?
Did he know?
like I think he had to go out and buy it. No, and he dropped it off on my birthday too, which was even cooler. But
oh my god, it's like a
and I
sign
feel
from
like with
heaven.
neon signs like that, you have to like order that online. Like you can't just like
yeah,
Target and get an on air sign.
I think so.
He must have,
I was
like,
just
seen
like,
it and thought of her though.
he
I
has
think
a
he
girlfriend
really
too
went
because
out
he
of
was
his
like,
way to be like, let me find, this is what I want to get for her. I'm gonna find it online. Like,
I don't know. Either way, I'm like, that's like going the extra mile. But a separate thing, I like this girl just popped up on TikTok and she's from Denver and I just liked her content and her personality. She was doing like vlogs and just like little bits and pieces of like her life and stuff. And so I followed her on TikTok and then I followed her on Instagram too. And then she DM'd me and was like, hey, like, thanks for the follow or something. And then like, want to get coffee? And I was like, yeah,
what?
I would love to.
How does that happen? Like, what?
I guess I just give off cool girl energy on my Instagram. I don't fucking know. Like, I was like, I mean, I'm cool. Like, I would definitely DM me, but it was just like kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but I was like thinking about how I'm like trying to manifest like easy friendships and like things that kind of work with my life without like, okay, I have to meet up with somebody like after work hours, or I can only get to know them like every other week or something. And so she was like, just send me a text or whatever. And so I texted her and she like listed out like kind of like Maggie style, like planning. She like gave me like 20 different options to like hang out. And I was like, oh my God, I fucking love this. Like, I'll take this and I'll take this or whatever. And she like today was like a work from this like coffee shop place that she like has a couple girls that came. And like, first of all, just like the ease of scheduling, I was just like, oh my God, like again, manifesting easy friendships. I'm just like, this is it. This is like
she
dream.
just hosts like a work from coffee shop thing with multiple people.
Yeah, so she does it I think like weekly, and then she just like she sent me like her other free time of just like to get coffee or lunch or whatever. So I was like, oh, I'm like already gonna be downtown for a networking event on Tuesday. Like I'll pop in before this and then I'll go to my like other networking thing. And so I went there and she's like so sweet and cool, and we're gonna get lunch on Thursday. But while I was there, another agency owner like sat down next to me, like who was part of like the group, and she's like scaled her business like tenfold, and she was like sharing like all the things that she's learned and like ways that she wants to like restructure and like how she wants to go moving forward and everything. And I was just like, holy fuck, like just timing wise, like I can't believe like she sat down of all people, because like it's something that's been on my mind of like, okay, what do I want to do next? Like what's next for me? And like, how do I do it? And here's this girl who's like done it and failed and like has so many lessons and like is really open and willing and wanting to share. And I was just like,
that's so crazy.
What the fuck? But the other good thing that I just like love about this is like the one thing, like I was saying, it's like, you know, trying to get together with people on like happy hours or like the weekend. And like, I'm gone a lot and those sort of things. So meeting up with people for lunch or meeting up for people with like coffee or like work time is like the most convenient thing for me. And like, this is a whole group of girls that are like in the same type of vibe where they can like hang out during the day. And I don't have to like, I could go out of my way if I wanted to, but I don't necessarily have to. So that's on that. And then I'm like, how much am I actually blocking myself? Was I just like open to this like opportunity right now? Or because I don't always follow up on like friendship initial things. So I want to like ask Jewel.
Or maybe a girl like appealed to you more where you felt like you.
Yeah, it could be that too. I don't know.
That reminds me, I saw this TikTok of this girl who every like Saturday she goes and sits in a coffee shop from like 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. or something. And that's like when she calls them like office hours. And that's like when her friends go hang out with her. Like she just has like a rotation of like, if you want to see me, like I'll be at this coffee shop.
That's
I
so
kind of thought it was
interesting.
odd.
The ways we're trying to figure out how to fit in friendships in the 21st century.
Yeah, quite an interesting way to go about it, but
That is crazy.
well, my only friend this week has been Bodie. He's been taking up all my time.
Oh,
But
it's so fun. I'm so jealous.
yeah, no, it has been actually really fun, and he's like actually the sweetest boy ever. We've been like actually crying every night when we put him to bed and stuff because we're just like, this is so sad. Like, just like, what is he thinking? Does he understand that he was given up? Like, it makes me so sad, and he feels very aware. Like when we talk to him, he's like Finley, like where I think he understands English.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very
You can't
sweet.
think about it that much. Like,
I know. And he's like happy, and he's like watching him every single day get more comfortable is so crazy. Like yesterday he had the zoomies for the first time in our backyard. And I was like, oh my god, he has the zoomies. Like compared to the
yeah.
first day, he's like would barely go anywhere. Like I'd have to physically walk with him around the backyard. And now he feels comfortable just like going.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. And
Oh,
one of my friends here, her friend who I've like met a few times is like interested in coming to meet him and stuff. So I'm hoping
good.
maybe she likes him and that works out because that would be so cool to have him go to somebody I actually know.
Yeah.
That would be really awesome. It also, like, even though it does kind of suck that he's like, you know, left his like comfort and like is going into a new home, it is kind of nice that he like is getting this practice because like hopefully the next time he goes somewhere else, like it's going to be that much easier for him to like adjust versus if he only had like a couple days with you guys and then got adopted or something, like he wouldn't have time to adjust and like be like, oh, I can do this and I'm like safe. Like
Yeah.
hopefully that just like will help him so much more for like the next place he goes.
Yeah, I was thinking with fosters, like, does that then make it easier for them when they transfer another time? Because they're like, oh, I've already done it. Or is it like confusing? Like, wait, I just got switched and now I'm being switched again. But it probably does just help them like have experience with it.
I feel like Rosie'd be like, oh, there's a new home. Like, as long as
Yeah,
they're
no, you're
feeding me
probably so
and giving
right.
me love, like, fuck off. I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
she'd be
I
like,
don't
if I ever
know.
came back, like, she'd be like, oh, sick, mom and dad are here. Like, that's awesome. But, like, I feel like she would just be so excited for, like, a new home, like, more land. If they have a dog door, like, fuck yeah, staying here forever.
Yeah, I don't think Willow would be that type of dog that's like waiting by the door every single day for me to come back home, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think I found a few mats behind his ears and stuff. And like his vaccines have all been self-administered, like the most recent ones from like 2023. Yeah.
How do you self-administer a vaccine?
Apparently you can go to like the what do they call it? Like the farm
Horse
store.
doctor?
No,
What
like
the Tractor
the
Supply?
tractors. Yes, thank you. Tractor Supply. You can like buy vaccines there apparently. But yeah,
That
she said
seems
that the vet had
crazy.
no information on him. She like called her vet that he's gone to and they couldn't find his records. And then the last vaccines that he got were in 2023 and were self-administered. So I think they definitely did shave him due to matting for sure. And probably
Mhm.
like he
Did you
probably
titer
hasn't
him?
had the most care. No, he has his first vet appointment on Thursday, but they won't pay for that because the foster people have to pay for everything.
Oh, okay. So the foster people pay for all of that stuff.
Yeah, just like out of their own pockets. I'll probably, because I think he has an ear infection, so I might be like, I'll buy his ear medication.
You should do a little like GoFundMe for him. Just like
Yeah, I was
for
gonna post. They have like a foundation they like for their rescue. You can donate online, so I was gonna share like their donation thing.
yeah. I know it's kind of like Meredith from the Burner Bunch. You know, I always ask like, oh, could we like, you know, get X, Y, and Z things donated for like Bark is like her place that she rescues and helps support. But she's like, honestly, it's cash that makes the biggest difference because they have to like pay for transport. They have to pay for all the vet bills and vaccines. And these dogs are like in such bad condition that like Meredith rescues that they need like a lot of vet work. So it's like,
Yeah,
I think, you know, it's
exactly.
great to have food and everything, but at the end of the day, like cash means.
Yeah, like the adoption fee is like $400, and some people are like, "Oh, that's so expensive." But I was thinking, like, that's probably literally cheaper than what the vet will cost on Thursday for him. Like, it barely covers anything.
Yeah.
Okay, Dev, you go, because now I'm stressing that we have 8 minutes and I need to do this introduction.
I don't really know what.
How did your pickleball thing go?
It was good.
I like actually think it's working to make friends.
So was it the same people?
Well, like I saw the same girls that I've been seeing, but I didn't play with them. But it was like so weird because like I walked into this place that the first day I walked in, I was like visibly shaking. I was so scared. But third time I walk in, I see one of the girls that I'm like friends with, and you know, I'm like, oh my God, hi. And I walk like I feel like a cool girl at this place where a lot of people don't know what's going on or whatever. So I'm like talking with her, and like I just felt, I don't know, it felt fun, which previously it was scary. And then I'm walking over to my court where I'm playing, and then I see another girl that I know, and we like give each other a hug, and we're like, okay, well, we'll see you after. Because then after, me and those two girls that I just mentioned went across the street to have like pizza and drinks, and hopefully we like make that our regular after pickleball thing. But it's just crazy how cute. Like just it felt so good.
My cheeks are hurting.
Me too.
Like how quickly it turned around, and like I'm the girl who has friends there somehow, you know, like a lot of these people don't really know anyone, and
you're like,
I don't know,
come with
like,
us to pizza actually.
Yeah, so and
That's
I had so much
cool.
fun like playing. Like I'm less fearful about playing pickleball with strangers, you know, like it's just kind of like more normal, I guess, now. So
that also shows that it really takes 3 times, like, because it's like the first time you're so scared, the second time it's like, okay, I did it before, but like I can do it again, and then the third time it's like, okay, I got it.
Did you like any of the new people that you played with?
I played with like 2 older people. I played with Deb.
Does that mean you got moved down the whole based time on your skill levels, or moved up?
Apparently we got moved up because we were in a earlier time slot.
Okay.
But I don't know. All 3 of us were now in an earlier time slot last week.
Oh.
On Sunday. But
well, that's exciting.
Yeah. But then there was another girl who's probably my age, and she was like not very good, and she was very quiet, and I felt bad for her. Like I wanted, because I saw myself in her, you know, and like now I'm the one who like has friends and isn't shy or anything, but now she's that way. I mean, I was really nice to her while we were playing together, but I didn't like.
You should say, have you ever read the book Quiet?
Insinuating that she's quiet and she needs to read a book about it.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, probably.
You're really quiet. Have you ever read the book Quiet?
You look like you have social anxiety, so you should read this book. It really helped me, and I have friends now.
You never know. I haven't read it yet. It's still on my bookshelf from the giveaway, but maybe once I do read it.
I mean, maybe I'll see her again, so who knows?
That's so fun. I'm so proud of you.
I'm excited.
So it's, how many weeks is it? It's only 6? 8. Okay.
8 weeks.
And then is it like seasonally? Like, is there then like a summer season?
Yeah, so I might keep doing it. I don't know.
Oh, it'll be hot as fuck. Is there an indoor court?
Yeah, it is inside.
Oh, it's all inside? Oh,
yeah.
I don't know why I was picturing you all outside this whole time.
No.
I was picturing outside too. This ruins my memory.
Sorry.
Yeah, like my vision of it is like completely changed now.
Yeah, it's different. It's more intimidating that it's like inside this like pickleball.
It's like so official
club thing. Yeah,
that is more intimidating.
But yeah, it works.
Okay.
I guess I still feel like I'm lucky, but
I feel like everything.
I'm lucky that I made friends already.
Yeah. But you also are doing the work to put yourself out there to land yourself in that opportunity.
It's working.
Yeah. That's great. Okay. So today we are so excited because we have a guest joining us, Jewel Hohman. Jewel is not only an incredible life coach, but someone who truly gets what it means to feel stuck in overthinking and self-doubt. She helps people break free from those patterns so they can step into more confidence, ease, and meaningful connections in their lives. She has a gift for making personal growth feel approachable and actually doable. So we're so excited to dive into this conversation. A guest on and like what, 2 years? Probably a very long time. So we're very excited to have you.
Honored. Oh my gosh. I'm honored.
It just felt so perfect with like everything we talk about, and especially like I feel like we've been also talking like very specifically about friendship the last like couple months, so it just feels very aligned and perfect.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like that's what y'all's podcast started with too, was talking about friendship. And yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here because honestly, I know without a doubt, 1,010%, you have listeners that are like, I want what they have. And I want to help them know that they can have more of that in their lives. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And it's so funny because we've found this friendship like online through this, but since we're all not together in person, we're still each individually trying to find that where we live. So it's like we're also struggling with it while having each other at the same time.
Beautiful. Yeah. And you all have each other to go through it with, which I know too. I have to say that Brittany is from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yes.
Okay. I am from the Metro Detroit area. That's where I am at. And I got so excited learning that information because I was like, the suburbs is a different breed when it comes to friendship too. Like, so I feel like you know what it's like when it comes to suburbia and then the city and making friends. Those involve different things too.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was just saying too, because they're like, it was just a very like, I don't know, kismet might be the right word, but this girl, I like just followed her on Instagram, and then she like messaged me and she's like, hey, do you want to get coffee? And I was like, yes, I would love to. But she like works for herself and kind of sets her own hours. And so it's just like so nice to be able to get together during the day versus having to like meet up with people after work. And like, then I have to go into the city at rush hour. So it's like 40 minutes. And I'm like, I just don't want to do that. And so then it's like, okay, I guess I can meet with you like whenever I'm free on the weekends. But you know, that's just a little bit harder than during the week sort of things and during the day.
It is. And proximity, like being close in suburbia is such a dream. I actually moved a little bit farther from my friends. So you all are getting me towards the end of my day. But I have like a 40-minute commute every single time I have to go see my friends. And so, yeah, I love that y'all have also all met each other online, internet friends too, because I do think proximity is important and being around each other in physical space. Like we all want somebody to go to the grocery store with and to do like the boring tasks with. Like, please come sit on my couch while I organize my closet. Like, please, like that's so nice. And I love what y'all have because I was listening to your first episode. And it's your first few actually. And in those episodes, I loved hearing your story because I think I can see very clearly how y'all all became friends through like the science of friendship, which I guess I can just like go ahead and dive into, and how you did it in an internet way, like not being in like physical space with each other, which I do think is harder to create and do rather than being in like physical space with people. So
totally.
Yeah. We did a little intro on you before you hopped on, but if you wanted to share any of your background and how you decided to specifically focus on friendship and everything, that would be very interesting to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, grew up in America's High Five, Michigan and suburbia, and I had really bad social anxiety, the kind that would make you go like nonverbal in some social settings. And I also was very extroverted, so I loved being around people. And what a painful experience that is, to get energy from other people, but to be so socially anxious the entire time you were with them.
Yeah.
Even when I had close friends, people that loved me and that really cared about me, I was really in my head on, do these people like me? Do my friends secretly hate me? Do they think X, Y, and Z about me? So I was constantly overthinking, and I spent my life doing that. And people kept telling me, and it's funny because I'm almost 30 now. I'm about to turn 29. You know, I'm approaching that little age bracket. And people would tell me all the time, it's going to get better as you get older. It's going to get better. I was getting older and nothing was getting any better. And so I was getting
like, when is this supposed to happen?
Yeah. I was like, what? I don't understand. I graduated college. I, started in the workforce, and I was like, this is, if anything, gotten worse, because now I started experiencing what so many people experience in their mid-20s, which is called the friendship dip, or been coined the friendship dip. And it's where we go from spending our entire lives with our peers in classrooms, all the things, if you live on campus with a peer, like you literally are seeing them all of the time, to not at all. People are moving. Well, I shouldn't say not at all. That's so dramatic. But people are moving. Right? People are moving. They're getting married. They're having kids. So you're not spending as much time around your peers, even when you do have a job that is in person, right? You're normally sitting next to people that are in completely different life circumstances than you. They're not really sitting by your peers anymore. And so I started experiencing the friendship dip, where my friends started, going and doing their own thing. And I was like, are you kidding me? I have spent my whole life feeling lonely, feeling anxious. And now I have to deal with it even more, now that I'm experiencing this friendship dip. So I decided, just for me, myself, and I, that I was going to figure this out. And I dove into the research. I worked in a psych lab for a period of time, so I know how to read research, which is this whole thing, because even research is biased as well. But I started diving into it. At the time, there was nobody talking about friendship, and it's such a hot topic nowadays, but nobody was talking about it. So I was getting nitty-gritty with it. And I started learning about social anxiety, friendship, and when I started going to events, people that had known me for a long time started saying some stuff to me like, Jewel, you seem so different. There's just this different air about you. I ended up starting the process of what I call making the friendships of my dreams. And then the pandemic hit. And then even in the global pandemic, I really solidified the friendships of my dreams. My confidants, the girls that I call when stuff hits the fan, I made those friendships, built those friendships, partially in the middle of a global pandemic. So if I can do it in suburbia, we all can do it. There's so much hope. And so I did that. And then people started asking me, can I come to your girls' trips? How did you meet these people? What are you doing? And I knew that people were lonely. You can't look at this data and not find out that people are lonely, that people are socially anxious, that perfectionism's increased, all of these things. I knew it, but there was something about people saying it to me that I was like, I want to spend the rest of my life doing this. I want to spend the rest of my life learning how people connect, doing this research, and helping people connect. And now it's been 5 years later. I have over 5,000 hours of working with individuals from all over the world on social anxiety, friendship, really connection, and charismatic leadership in workspaces. And now I'm also doing it on this is actually a very recent update that probably wasn't in my bio, but I am now working on a systemic change as well. So I'm working with Social Prescribing USA, which what we are trying to do is we are trying to make social prescriptions part of our healthcare. So if somebody's anxious, depressed, dealing with chronic pain, PTSD, they can, in addition to getting any sort of therapy and, medicine that they might need, like pharmaceuticals they might need, they can also get a community intervention. So this has been done in the UK. So fishing classes or fishing groups, art classes, tons of things that really bring people together. So
that was amazing.
Is the UK the main place that's been done, or are there other countries that have also adopted that too?
There's other countries that have adopted that too. So Canada has, Australia has, but they're relatively new. The UK was really a pioneer. It's still relatively new. Even when I was starting to research all of this stuff, it was not a thing yet. It was just becoming a thing. So, and that was 5 years ago. Go ahead. Sorry.
Do you think that friendship, I know it's there's like more people that are talking about it. Like there's more people like interviews and stuff on podcasts that I've been seeing. But do you think that like in the last 5 years, 10 years even, like it was a very shameful topic, so people didn't really want to like admit needing help of like I need help making friends, or like, you know, because obviously like it's okay, it seems like, I guess, okay in society to be like I need help finding a relationship, or like I need to, you know, whatever, I need to feel better about myself in order to find a relationship. So like there's so much like relationship coaching and counseling and discussions about that. There's whole TV shows on dating and stuff. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, loneliness has been steadily, linearly increasing since the 1970s. And so it's been a problem for quite some time. I do think our generation is one of the, like, if you will, like the elder millennials, a little bit older than us. I think they really like set the precedent for us to talk about mental health in the way that we have. And the truth is, honestly, as one of my mentors always says, connection is the foundation for mental health. I'm just going to say it again. Connection is the foundation for mental health. In our individualistic culture, we like to not believe that's true. I can tell you I'm getting my master's right now, and it's the thing that I'm constantly learning in my master's all over and over and over again. Like being in community, connecting with people, having support is a huge reason of why we are mentally healthy. So I do think it's kind of natural, like as we've started talking about mental health as a whole, we've also started talking about relational intelligence, emotional intelligence. How can we best relate to each other, whether that's dating? And then I think friends becomes a part of that, because unfortunately we're really in this culture of isolation. There aren't as many like low cost activities where we can go out and spend time with friends. We have these little like portable TVs in our hands that we carry around with us all of the time that suck up our time, right? Like just scrolling on our phone suck up so much of our time. And we are living in like separate houses, especially again, if you live in the suburbs, a lot of people, right, working from home or even hybrid situations, we are spending so much more time alone. And I think this is the start of truly what we're going to see just like continue to increase, where people are going to continue to care more and more about friendship, more and more about connection, especially I think our generation. And I'm curious on y'all's thoughts on this, but this is just mine. I think because we have cared about mental health, we've also cared about like connection. I think a lot of us saw like our parents get divorced. And so we're like, okay, I want to make smarter decisions when I'm dating. But if you are single longer, it's not that you become like a human that doesn't need connection in your life, right? So I think then the natural result is also, no, my friendships are really important to me. I want to prioritize those.
Yeah, for sure. That's so interesting. So when you were going to make your dream friendships and go about that, what was like your first steps? Like where were you physically going? Because we always talk about like a third place a lot of the times, how that's not really a thing anymore, and because we're in our homes so frequently. So when you're going about even making friends, like where did you physically go?
Yes. Okay. Drop in third place knowledge. Love to see it. So what I did actually, my very first step, because most of the time people are lonely not because they don't know enough people, but they are lonely because they don't have the closeness that they want to have. So what I did is I made this huge list of all of the people that I had felt the spark of connection with, of like clicking with, which is a topic for, you know, maybe later, because I think clicking is very interesting with people.
Yeah, I was like listening to all your episodes and I was like, fuck, we're going to have you on like once a quarter to talk about something different, because there's too many topics that like need a deep dive and not just like a little like summary.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I would be absolutely ecstatic. So I made a huge list of the people that I had clicked with, and I went through this list, and I recommend if anybody's like looking to feel more meaningfully connected in general, just to do this, because it's such a fueling activity just to write down, here are all of the meaningful connections that I have had. Oh my gosh, I don't think there's anything that feels better. And I made this list and I looked at, okay, literally who is close to me proximity wise, who reflects who I want to be in the world, and like I circled 4 women and I was like, cool, I'm going to prioritize these 4 women, because I think having like a prioritization, especially because I don't know about y'all, but I know what everybody from my high school was doing. Right? My mom was like, just in the last few years, was like, oh, I learned what this person's doing. So when we're seeing a ton of people that we've interacted with, like past coworkers, classmates, etc., and we think about, oh, I need to go make friends, one thing that I did that really held me back was I tried to be friends with everybody. And you can't be close with everybody. You just physically cannot. So prioritizing was really helpful. And then to answer your question, Maggie, once I had prioritized those women, it just became for me like we have a lack of third places, especially here in Michigan. So it just became, hey, do you want to spend a day going on this hike with me? I say hike. We have no mountains. It's like a walk. But
go to the park.
Yeah, do you want to go to the park with me? And I would ask them, frequently to do these things that required, if you will, like at least half of a day, because part of friendship is also just logging the hours together. And that might sound really like not fun, or if you're like, I don't have a lot of time. Y'all, I did it in a global pandemic, like just logging the hours of walking next to people with my mask on and FaceTiming people. I mean, you have a group where 3 people are really close friends and all met on the internet and are in different places. So it can be easier than you think. But to answer your question very like bluntly, there aren't a lot of third places for me to go. You kind of have to like seek those out and create your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And that is such a thing when you're on Instagram maybe and you're seeing people from high school and you're like, oh, I'll just like their story or something, but you don't kind of go any further than that. So that is a great idea to kind of go through your past connections and think about who you had sparks with maybe a long time ago. I definitely have rekindled like a lot of friendships from my past. But now I live in a new place. So now it's kind of like needing to make new people rather than people I have known in the past. But yeah, we talk about that a lot, of having the free time with somebody and how that's so different when you're making a new friend, because it's like, oh, let's go to happy hour and we're having a drink, and it's kind of like that scheduled hour and a half, rather than when you're in middle school and you have like a whole summer day and you get bored and you're like, what should we do next? It like creates way more of a bond.
One question that like is stemmed from, I think, a couple different episodes that you've done on, especially like kind of getting started with the process, is what you talk about with like loving yourself and feeling confident in yourself, and like that being an important thing to recognize of like maybe why you're not making friends or making like friendships that last, because like you're like trying to be something that you're not, or trying to like you're overthinking a lot of things, or there's like so many examples that you had. So can you kind of talk about maybe questions to think about that like might just help you understand like what you like, where you are with yourself, I guess, like in terms of self-love or like confidence, and maybe like what to maybe work on internally so that you can show up and like find those meaningful connections?
Absolutely. And such a good question. And it's so true, right? Like in my story, I had friends. Like I had people that loved me growing up, but did I feel that way? No. Right? And so did I feel close to people? Was I going to people to get support? No. And it's because of my attachment style. And if y'all are familiar with the 4 attachment styles, just in case any you did? Okay. Beautiful. Just in case a random listener is not, there's anxious, there's avoidant, and then there's disorganized. And that's a combination of anxious and avoidant. And they kind of do like this push-pull thing where they really want connection, but are also like, that's scary. And then there's secure. And so I do think it is easier. Actually, it's not even a thought. There's flat out data around people that are securely attached having an easier time making friends and building friendships, sustaining them. However, if you're like, great, I already know I'm this, that sucks, do not be discouraged. There are 3 questions that I think are really helpful into being aware of just what your biases are when it comes to friends. And also this will help you identify, okay, where do I need to pivot and just make the whole thing a lot easier? And so those 3 questions are like, what are your thoughts about yourself, about others, and about friendship itself? So one thing that I have been doing, again, for the past 5 years, I've been coaching individuals and mostly women. And one of the things that always comes up when I ask them about their thoughts about others are thoughts about other women. Other women are judgy. Other women are catty. I never feel safe around other women. That is something that is unbelievably common. And often, if you think other women are catty, if you think other women are judgmental, if you're afraid of them, right, you're not going to do the work, if you will, to make a friend, to reach out. Or even if you are, it's going to be like an uphill battle. However, just being aware of what your biases are, and just to repeat them again, your thoughts about yourself, your thoughts about others, and your thoughts about making friends or friendship itself, just being aware of those biases and what they are can help you have so much more authority over them. They don't need to change immediately. So a lot of times when I'm coaching clients and they say something like that, like, yeah, other women scare me and I don't feel safe around them, being aware of that allows them to then, when they are in the presence of other women, be like, I already know that that's there. I already know that that fear is there. That's fine. This is not one of those situations. I'm going to talk with this person, right? So those 3 like buckets, if you will, I think just being aware of them and also shifting them a little bit more. If we think friendship building is hard, especially as an adult, and don't get me wrong, I just listed all these things on why it's harder, right, in our modern world compared to how it was in the past, okay? I am like, there are systemic changes that we need to make connection easier in our lives, to make us able to center connection in our lives. And what I want to offer is that I did this in less than a year. I've helped so many clients do this, and it's a fun process. Expanding your ability to feel connected, doing the work of making friends. It's like the best thing in the entire world. I can't think of anything more fun, more life-giving, more energizing. And so I just want to nudgingly offer everybody that thought about making friends, that the process can be really fun. It can be really rewarding. And sure, there might be times when, you know, it's feeling a little sensitive or there's any normal human emotions that come up. But that's another huge one that I would really recommend everybody to kind of like adopt and look for in their lives, is that friendship can be fun and easy. Connection can happen in a moment. Friendships are built, and building connection or building friendships are just one connected moment at a time.
Yeah, I think that definitely requires a mindset change of looking at it as fun. Because for me, in the past 10 years, I've looked at it as like terrifying. Like, I'm afraid of the judgment, or if they're not going to want to hang out with me, rejection. And I like, on one of your episodes, you were talking about how you have to feel safe with someone to be able to open up to them. And that's like I feel like that's like my love language. Like, I need to feel, if I feel safe with you, then I can be myself and I won't be anxious.
Yeah. And there are things we can do, right, to make ourselves feel safer. But I do think, and y'all actually mentioned it in one of your first episodes. One of you says something along the lines of, like, yeah, I met this person and like we just really clicked, and I can hear it in that example too, and in what Devon just said of like, okay, I need to feel safe with you. I do think it's important to look for, okay, who do I have like a natural flow with? Who do I like quote unquote click with? Because those, I mean, I think for everybody, those friendships are easier to build. And there's certain things that we can do, especially if our social anxiety is high, to make ourselves feel safer in social settings as well. So it's like both, if that makes sense.
When you like feel that click with somebody, what would you recommend doing next in that circumstance?
So I'm imagining for this kind of situation, like you're out at like, I don't know, like a friend's mutual event or at like a networking event, and you have this moment where you feel like you click with somebody. So in that kind of example, and if you're like, okay, I want to be friends, And let's just dive into the science of friendship, y'all, because that is such a beautiful connected moment. Clicking with somebody, having that flow, that ease, again, it feels so good. And meeting people is not enough to turn them into a friend. So friendship is based on 3 things. And if everybody can imagine a triangle, or if, watching, like you can see my little dorky little triangle here. So there are layers to this triangle. So at the bottom, towards the base, there's this big layer, and that's our acquaintances. And then as we move up the triangle, we move up a layer. Those are then our like friends, our good friends. And at the very top, the people at the smallest level of that little tiny triangle, the pinnacle, those are our confidants. Those are our best friends. Those are our most intimate, rewarding relationships. And how we move people, because everybody in our lives, including our partners, including our siblings, everybody in our lives, we have moved them from an acquaintance to a confidant through these 3 things. So those 3 things are meaningful moments, vulnerability, and consistency. So meaningful moments is the foundation, if you will, if you can imagine it being like the bottom of the triangle. It's the foundation that holds up our friendships. These are the moments where we feel good, we feel connected, like where we feel seen, somebody's really making us feel understood, we share a laugh with somebody, we're having fun. And research shows for all relationships, it takes 5 positive moments to outweigh each negative moment.
Oh, wow.
This is why some people end up in relationships or friendships even where they have built up that friendship. They've moved this person up their triangle, but the relationship feels so empty is because there's way more negative moments than there are positive moments, or that ratio is just off balance. So 5 positive moments to every negative moment. And then we deepen that bond with somebody through vulnerability and consistency. Now, I get reactions whenever I say this. Whenever I'm teaching a workshop, I can always see it in somebody's face when they hear this. When they hear vulnerability, some people get really excited. And then they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's get vulnerable. Let's get deep. Oh, my favorite thing in the entire world. Or they're like, oh my gosh, gross. No way. Do not like. In vulnerability, we want to think about it on an incremental level. So it's just, I get to see more of you. You get to see more of me every single time we're with each other. So if you have a coworker and they come over to your house and they're seeing the way you decorate, right? They're seeing like Devon's adorable like framed paintings that she has in the back, right? They're seeing how she expresses herself. Like that's vulnerable because somebody is getting to see more of you, right? Outside of a work setting. So they're getting to see more of you in that sense. So vulnerability, we want to think about it on an incremental level. A huge mistake I made is I thought, before I did any of the research, I thought, oh, like you're just best friends with people that you know every single thing about. So I was like, bet, let me go ask a girl out for coffee and then let me tell her all of my childhood trauma.
Automatic best friend.
That's like, that's a very common thing though. Like for people to, that's like their point of connection is to just like open up and share like everything super deep about their life. And then like the other person's like, oh, okay, then I can share that too. But yeah, that's like trauma response, right?
Yes and no, right? And it can be connecting because it is vulnerable. However, I was always gobsmacked when I was like, why isn't this person my best friend now? Like, why are we not texting each other all the time? Why are we not, doing all of the stuff? And it's because we didn't have the other components, the meaningful moments or the consistency along with that. We just jumped really high with me telling them all of these things that they didn't ask for. So I will go ahead.
I was going to say, I think consistency is one of my like downfalls in terms of like either the follow-ups or like I blame my schedule a lot, even though I could probably like make more time. So do you have tips for like the consistency aspect, especially like, I feel like at the beginning too, it's kind of hard, like depending on other people, you're like, oh, should we like hang out twice a week, once a month? Like,
you have to force her to do a podcast with you once a week for the consistency.
Yeah, that's how we hang out.
That's like literally how we've develop such a strong bond, because all three of those things you said is what we have, but it's also because, you know, we're doing this podcast together. So we have to be consistent and we have to be vulnerable with each other.
Yeah, that's so true. And at the beginning of those first episodes, like we were friends, but at the very beginning of our friendship, like we've grown our friendship in the process and learned all of those things. We learned something new about Brittany almost every week. She just drops new information and we're like, whoa, where'd that come from? But yeah, that is so cool.
That is something just like self-reflective. Like I think I definitely like hold back at first. Like I'm very open and I'm gonna talk to you and we're gonna like have good conversation, but like I hold back a lot more until I'm like safe and comfortable, and then I'll like share and like let you into my life more.
Yeah, I saw something you say about social anxiety and like starting to feel safe like that, because I struggle with that too, of feeling safe, and how you might not be worried as much about what you're gonna say, but more that they'll realize what you're ashamed about or like what you have bad feelings about yourself about. So how would you suggest like overcoming that sort of thing?
Yes. Okay, I love that you were asking me about that. I also am like blushing a little bit here that y'all went and checked out my work. Oh my gosh, I love it. So let me answer the consistency question first real quick.
Yeah, sorry, we're bombarding you.
No, you're so good.
We have a million more questions.
I love it.
I'm impressed that you remember where we were like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I totally
we all have ADHD
that.
also, so we always just interrupt each other and bounce all over the place.
Me too. I think truly part of the reason why I got it is because honestly, y'all, like, no joke, I think this will probably be like, I'm almost done like over 100 podcast interviews at this point and tons of workshops. So it's so natural for me to explain this, and I want to make sure I get it out there. So anyway, I think that's the only reason why, because I have ADHD too. I feel you. But consistency. So the easiest way for me to say consistency too, and also I want to touch on this because I can bet my bottom dollar that you have a listener out there that's like, okay, Jewel, like I have a friend that I've had since kindergarten though, and we don't have a lot of consistency. I see that friend like, you know, twice a year. Okay. I love that. The reason why you're able to feel so connected to that person is because you have already built up a lot of consistency with them. You have a lot of history together. You have a lot of history together. This is typically why two college roommates end up becoming some of our best friends that we have. That's like very normal. And it's because we have so much history. We have so much vulnerability, so many meaningful moments just built up with them. And then the other part of consistency, like when we become friends with our coworkers, are because of frequency. So consistency can really be broken down into those two parts, history and frequency. And as we build up that consistency, again, we move somebody up. So how we do that in the beginning. Okay, some people are going to love this. Some people are going to hate this. This is totally fine. I think we need to treat friendship more like we are dating. And I do think we are going to see a trend more of that. I've been saying that for a while, and I feel like I'm getting pretty close. I saw an article the other day that was like, date your friends, and I was like, okay, it's happening, because I do feel like this is
even
where
the
we're going.
dating apps, like having.
I feel like you should be an
options.
advisor for Bumble BFF.
Yeah,
Brittany, I would die. Thank you.
Go manifest. I'm gonna manifest it for you.
She's gonna contact them after this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'd be so honored. Oh, I love this. So consistency in building like those relationships, I think we need to treat it like dating. Now, where Bumble BFF is different, right? And it's helpful for meeting new people if we're in a space. Like, I know, Maggie, you mentioned you moved to a new space, it sounds like. And so making friends
like
in
5
your
years ago, but yeah. Still making friends.
Still building that community. There we go. I do think Bumble BFF is helpful for that. However, for people like me that are living in like the same area, you know, that they like grew up in, it's not necessarily the best, because again, like just meeting new people, we need to log those hours. We need to log that consistency, which is why I really recommend making that list that we talked about earlier. But when it comes to increasing frequency, people get so worried about this, and it's fair. It makes sense, especially if we have some level of social anxiety where we're afraid of rejection. But truly, y'all, the world is freaking lonely. It's lonely. even before the pandemic, again, loneliness has been steadily increasing since the 1970s. Most Americans, like at least, honestly, the data is even probably different as I'm saying this now, so I won't even. But most Americans report that their friendships aren't as meaningful and that they are feeling lonely. In October of last year, people were saying that they felt lonely throughout the day, right? So this is a huge problem. People are lonely. And by offering friendship, you are offering somebody the best gift in the absolute world. There was a study done on happiness. It was an 80-year-long study, the longest study on happiness ever done. They found that even if you had like been through adversity, the thing that helped your quality of life, the longevity of your life, your well-being the most was your relationships.
I took a class on happiness and they talked about that specific study.
Did they?
Every week. It was very important.
Yes, it's so important. And so you are offering somebody, think about that, when you're offering somebody friendship, you are offering somebody happiness. Dang it. You know, like this is the best gift ever. And so again, then it comes to our thoughts about ourselves, our thoughts about others, and our thoughts about making friends or friendships in the first place, and just being mindful of that. But asking people to do those like day trips, those day things that I talked about earlier to increase consistency, but also just being like, okay, I know that I'm going to be, you know, like I'm just going to pull my partner as an example. He drives it to work. It takes him an hour. He goes into work like twice a week, like his job. And I know without a doubt, because he's a little chatterbox, that he's calling somebody in his circle every time he's commuting. And one of those people he's talking to on the phone while they're just getting ready for the day, right? So finding those pockets of time, I think, are really helpful and true. And it is true that it takes some getting to know somebody, some building up consistency to really do that. But to go back to our example earlier, if you meet a girl at a networking event and you want to hang out with her more, I think the first thing is you got to be willing to be looked at as a pursuer of friendship, which, like, I'm sorry, the best thing in the whole world. Are you kidding? So you got to be willing.
Why do we find that so like embarrassing?
I think you do.
You guys don't feel like embarrassed trying to pursue someone in a friendship level, like the way that you would if you were dating?
Deep down,
I think a lot of people do.
I do, because I'm amazing at the first step, and then being like, okay, like when do we hang out? Is like, I'm like, I don't know. Like there's this girl, I literally met her. She lives like in my neighborhood, and I still haven't texted her. I'm like, how much more like perfect and convenient can I get like in friendship? So.
But realistically, they would be honored to be asked. Like everybody wants to make new friends and connect. So maybe
I
that's
guess I
just
get
a me
awkward.
Thing, but...
No, I get awkward pursuing once, like not in the initial meeting, but afterwards. Like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, like of trying to ask when should we hang out?
Yeah. Like when do you want to go on a walk?
Yeah.
Yeah, or do you want to have a phone call with me once a week?
It's vulnerable. It's absolutely vulnerable. So it's going to feel a little bit, you know, uncomfortable, or like, I love that you use the word embarrassing, which, by the way, y'all, we are so afraid of embarrassment. But when we experience embarrassment and we even tell other people like, hey, this is a little embarrassing, they like us so much more. It's called the beautiful
the feeling
mess
goes
effect.
away.
I'm gonna
like as soon as you say it
that way.
I love that.
I'm so embarrassed. I haven't texted you in 3 months since we met, but
yeah. Because you think about what that's like to receive, right? Like, oh my gosh, wow. It's vulnerable, it's connective, and honestly, owning your emotions in that level, being like, hey, this is a little embarrassing, or I'm a little nervous to do this, actually shows confidence. Right? The feeling itself, the sensations of embarrassment, of anxiety don't have to go away, but just taking some level of ownership over them and some self-acceptance over them and being like, hey, this is a little embarrassing, but I want to do this. I want to connect with you. Absolutely beautiful. And so I think we have to be willing on some level to be pursuers. And in my opinion, like culture creators, like we have an opportunity here to create more of a culture of connection. But you would be surprised. I asked like those 4 women to spend more time with me. And one of them, I was like, hey, can we like do a weekly FaceTime? I was not very close with her. Like she was like barely on my triangle, if you can imagine, you know, like hardly. I was like, hey, can we do a weekly FaceTime? And she was like, yeah. We have to be willing for people to self-select, right? Not all 4 of those women became my confidants, became the people that I turned to in my most vulnerable crying mess moments, or even in my happiest celebration moments. 2 of those girls did, right? And
that's really good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's really helpful to hear. Just like you're putting yourself out there, and it doesn't all have to be like they're making their way to the top of the triangle. Like they can stay at the base level, and like all of that's cool. And it just opens up other opportunities to like move other people up to like the top level.
Yeah. Let people self-select. And it's not, I think we're so afraid of what we're going to make it mean about ourselves. Like if that they don't prioritize us or initiate with us. But truly, y'all, some of the people, like one of the girls that I ended up prioritizing, who is, you know, I would say a little bit higher on my triangle, but like not one of my confidants, but we're so good friends and I get value out of that connection. Connection is valuable, period. But she already had such a wildly full schedule and amount of friends that it had nothing to do with how, you know, like amazing and awesome and lovely I am. It just had everything to do with like she was already prioritizing a bunch of things and a bunch of other people. Now, again, I said it very clearly earlier, and I said it for a reason. Let people self-select, because one of my confidants, I actually remember thinking to myself, is this a smart decision? This person has a lot of friends. And I tell her all the time, you're welcome for our friendship, because I almost chose to prioritize somebody else because I was like, she has a lot of friends. Let people self-select. And we have to be willing to pursue. And we do in this process, I will say, have another opportunity for growth. I think in relationships, we have the opportunities to grow the most as people. And so going back to the social anxiety component and what Maggie mentioned earlier, a lot of times, especially for women, when they're experiencing social anxiety, maybe the reason why they're not reaching out to other people to make friendships is because they're afraid that other people are going to reject them for the things that they are ashamed of. Right? Yeah. So for me, when I was going through this process, and just to be very vulnerable with y'all, but also not to trauma dump on y'all. So
we love it.
Yeah, we like trauma dumping here.
So I felt insecurities around, honestly, truly just like there was something off about me as a person, was like a story that I had about myself. Like I'm weird, I'm off, there's something awkward about me, I don't pick up on things. Which is also a common ADHD experience for women, by the way. But
yes, I felt that exact same way.
And so I had that thought. And if I were to let that take over, right, and prevent me from making friends, like that's something I easily could have done. But instead, I would go into spaces and I would be like, okay, this is my thought, right? This is the thing I'm afraid that they are going to notice, and then I will feel shame. But what is it like if I just, you know, allow myself, and this, I'm making it sound so simple. I want to actually give a big caveat. I'm making it sound so simple, but y'all, this is why I have a job, is because this is what I help people do. But to allow myself to accept those parts of myself, to accept that sometimes I was going to say things that were off, or say things that were weird, or say things that were awkward, and like accept that within myself. Me doing that made me so much less socially anxious, made me so much more comfortable being myself, and so much more comfortable being a pursuer of friendship, of people, of connection.
Which makes so much sense. And you think of it when you think of dating. Like my husband is so weird and I'm so weird. And like he's always loved my weirdness and I've always loved his weirdness. And that's interesting if you thought of it in friendship of like, okay, so why can't I just be my full weird self when making friends too? Because they should like everything about me as well if they're going to be my best friend.
on the note of just like pursuing and everything too, can you explain like your concept of reciprocating, like understanding people's reciprocating enthusiasm versus action? Because I also feel like for myself, I'm like not always the best at following up, but like I'm so excited when you text me and like you want to hang out or you want to do something, I'm gonna like respond and like maybe not immediately, but like I will be so excited and you'll see that, you know?
Okay. Obsessed that you brought this up, because also forewarning, as if I wasn't, talking a lot about my favorite thing in the entire world so far in this podcast, you just opened a soapbox. So, because one thing that we get really caught up in, and it happens whether we have been friends with somebody for years or whether we are just trying to pursue somebody and making a new friend, one thing that we get really caught up in is, oh my gosh, I texted her last time though, and she didn't text me back, and, I invited her to this or X, Y, and Z. We get really caught up in that. And what I want to offer very lovingly, y'all, is that we are in this age, especially for us ADHD girlies, where being on all of the time is not healthy. I am all for like being your most authentic self, feeling so confident, and you need time to like chill and be. And when we carry these phones around in our pockets all the time, we have this like pressure, especially for, honestly, like people like y'all that your careers are online, right? Like it could feel like you're on all the time. That's exhausting. And so, and on top of it, right, when you throw in kids, you throw in jobs, you throw in all of this stuff, all of these other like stimuli, responding to somebody's text may just, especially if it's a new friend where they don't already have like the habit of connecting with you yet because you're a newer friendship, it may take time and it may have nothing to do with their interest in being your friend. And I experienced this in the beginning. Like I said, two of my confidants, two of the girls that I, my best friends, if you will, one of them had a lot of friends, right? One of them was not great. And honestly, like to this day still isn't. And that's fine. I'm not either, but is not great at responding or reaching out to things. But you bet, like we will be on the phone all of the time. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I say this is such a soapbox because I think we're hurting our own feelings all of the time by just looking for evidence with our negativity bias in our brain of how people aren't interested in us. And in reality, they actually really might be. So one thing I recommend is instead of looking for reciprocated action, looking for who texted who last, who, invited who last, instead of doing that, look for enthusiasm. Because, and I believe you actually gave an example, Brittany, of saying like, I might not be the quickest to respond or respond fast enough, if you will. Fast enough, whatever that means. Me, at least 7 business days. But like,
mine's like, well, I was like, I followed up after 4 days. So like, that's good, right?
Yeah. Wow. That's half my time. So beautiful. But looking for enthusiasm for like, hey, yeah, things have been crazy. I would love to get together though. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. I think looking more at that is a more effective way of seeing if somebody is interested. Because part of this too is like what I said earlier are just habits, right? Think about the people that you are closest to in your life. You probably have no problem, and I use this in quotations, like inconveniencing them and being like, hey, I'm sad. Can we talk? Right? Mm-hmm. Like talk to me about things, or just like a random text of like, here's all the stuff that's going on with this stupid boy, right? You have like habits of talking with them frequently, of engaging with them frequently, whereas a new friend, they're not like as high on your triangle yet, right? You don't have that vulnerability, consistency, and meaningful moments built up yet. So it does take a little bit more effort to also sit down and respond to a text message just in general of being like, okay, yep, because you're not as familiar with each other. Does that make sense?
One example I love that you gave that I think is really important for this is like when, especially if someone's like already busy or has like a full schedule and it shows enthusiasm, is like, I can't do, this week or next month, but like, would you be free like in 2 months from now kind of thing, like, or whatever it is, like, they're giving another option to hang out or like connect. And I think that's really awesome. Because I think that's something that you can easily get caught up in. It's like, oh, they just like said no again. But like if they're saying no, but could you do this instead, then it's like a sign of enthusiasm.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
I kind of sorry, go ahead.
No, all you.
No, I was just kind of wondering if, like, what if it's kind of the opposite feelings? Like, if you're the one pursuing, trying to make new friends, and you go have a hangout with this girl, and you maybe don't feel like that automatic click right away, how would you suggest, like, do you think you just give it one chance, and then it's kind of like, okay, I should move on, maybe that friendship's not for me? Or how many times hanging out or texting somebody should you give to, like, feel that click before it's like, okay, maybe move on, that's not my best friend or confidant?
That's a good question.
That is a really good question. And it's such a spectrum. I will say, like, there is no like black and white answer, but there are some like inquiries people can make to kind of answer that question for themselves. Because if you're like it sounds like in this situation, Maggie, it sounds like with like a new friend being like, oh, yeah. Are they? Yeah. So what I would recommend is like more often than not being like comfortable, like reaching out a little bit more than you initially think, right? I recommend like pursuing a little bit more to show like, hey, no, I'm serious about us being friends. I'm not even just like saying like, hey, let's get together just to say it to be nice. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I really want to be friends, like to put that out there. So I recommend doing that. And oh my gosh, pause. Okay, sorry. Just hit my microphone. But one thing that can be really helpful for people as they're doing that, again, is to think about it as in, I am pursuing connection, the best gift in the world. I'm offering them the best gift in the world. I will say, if you are feeling like somebody is just not pursuing or like back or like prioritizing you back, then I just recommend in general, look for other connection in your life.
But what if like if they're like, you guys are both like prioritizing like the like time together and stuff, but like you're just not feeling like the like click, like, oh my God, like we have some sort of connection, you know? Like you're just kind of like.
Because we often say we want it to be easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that I want it to be easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, and it is okay to deprioritize, but this is also why I recommend like having like, I would say max 5, like 3 to 5 like friends that you are truly trying to prioritize and keeping in mind and trying to build those habits with, that consistency with, because again, we can't be close to everybody, because also you're less likely to be like, it has to work with this one person. And it becomes kind of a natural thing where it's like, okay, I am, getting closer with this person. Like that's what happened naturally for me. And honestly, what I have seen happen naturally for a lot of my clients as well.
It's like dating too.
Is
you
like dating.
Date multiple people and then you don't worry who's texting you back.
Exactly. Exactly. But when it comes to connection in those moments, like if you're just like not clicking, I just think it's easier to find people that you click with. But I want to give a huge caveat with that. Huge. Because if you are struggling with social anxiety, you're going to click a lot less with people because that ability to feel safe and comfortable and also to feel connected isn't going to be as easily accessible as it would be with somebody that is, more securely attached, more confident in themselves. Like that's going to be easier to access. And so I just want to lovingly say that, because if your thoughts, like for example, like when we went back to the buckets earlier and it's like, okay, thoughts about myself, thoughts about others, thoughts about friendship making itself. If you're having a lot of thoughts about yourself in a negative way, the things that you are feeling embarrassed about, shameful of, keep coming up, it is going to be harder to access that clicking. And that's just where we can do some self-acceptance work to really like overcome that and start feeling safe with more people.
Yeah, that's also similar to a date of like when you're going to date someone and you are focusing so much on if you like them or worried if they're going to like you, rather like, do I even like this person? Like you're only focused on, are they liking me? Am I okay? Am I pretty enough? Blah, blah, blah. But like, do you even like this person? Are you even having an enjoyable time with them? So that also works very well in friendships. We talk a lot about when we have like a drink before hanging out with people or whatever. It really helps our social anxiety, and we're like very much social drinkers. And that's something that I'm struggling with somewhat, is like once I have a drink or something, I'm so open and I'm so like a little social butterfly, but I am way more in my head and way more concerned of like, what did I say? What was I doing if I don't have a drink? Do you have like any tips around that of doing things sober and like socializing sober?
And sometimes too, like that anxiety is something that can come up. But I actually, this was not my intention, but just like fun fact, I guess, I have quite a few clients that have been through the AA like program and are like sober. And then they come to me because they're like, hey, part of the reason why I was drinking a lot, and I'm not saying I am, oh my gosh, I am not saying that there's anybody here on this call right now. But I just want to say like that is really, really common, is to like cope with some of that anxiety. And I think too, if like, you know, like a drink helps and it feels good, but doing things sober, and this is where it becomes more about like, okay, how can we practice the skills of connection? Because yes, there are skills. And one of the things that we can do is we can practice being really present with people and to look for what we have in common. And when I say what we have in common, I do not mean like scrolling and being like in your brain and being like, yep, so they're really into sports, I'm not. Yep, they're, you know, really into XYZ, I'm not. Or even looking at them and being like, you know, I'm just going to guess or throw examples.
I loved this example that you did, because I feel like it's the same as dating too. Like, fuck your checklist.
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas the things that you might click with in general, and this is why, and I think the example that you're talking about, Brittany, is where I talk about my friend. It's actually one of my confidants, one of the girls that are now my best friends. I met her and I remember being like, oh, okay, like she's not going to be one of my like best friends that I pursue. I had that thought because she was super into sports. She was, you know, at the time, like really shy, really, really like introverted, and just like, you know, spending time doing things. And again, I was socially anxious but extroverted. Like I wanted to be out with like people and doing things. Anyway, so I was like, okay, she's not going to be one of my people. And then we start talking and I was like, oh my gosh, here we are, like talking about mental health, talking about growth. I feel so present with her. Like she's so present with me. She's like openly affectionate and is like, you know, like openly, willingly, like giving compliments, you know, things like that. Like I clicked with this person. And again, I remember thinking, oh, that's not going to happen. And there's so many examples of this, I will just say, in my life. Like my partner, I don't know, it cracks me up because he just got a new job and this happened again. But he, at his last job, got really close to a woman that was almost 70. I think she was like 69. And my partner,
That's so cute.
They clicked. To this day, they still talk on the phone sometimes, and he'll go over to her place and he'll sleep in her grandkids' bedroom when he stays over there for sleepovers. So, like, nobody would be like, oh, here's this, you know,
they need to be between like 30 and 35 to be my friend.
Yeah, that connection is really valuable to him. And would that be on his checklist, on his bingo card? Probably not. And now, again, he's got another job. And he was like, I don't want to say her name just in case, but he's like telling me about this woman who's, you know, old enough to be our mom. And he's like, yeah, we're getting really close. We're talking about, you know, X, Y, and Z. So you might be surprised with who you click with. And I forgot why we started on this note here. Oh yeah. So when it comes to being sober and connecting with people, one thing that you can do to really drop into connection with other people is to know that y'all have something in common and you just haven't found it yet. And so be so curious about that person, be so present in the connection with them. I really like to think, and I think this is just something that women really excel at too. Like, okay, what is this person's like goals like in front of me? What are they about? You know, like what have they been through? And you don't have to get like all of their trauma or anything like that, but like what's important to them? Being curious about those kind of questions. Again, you might be really surprised with who you click with. And when it comes to managing things sober, what that does is it really helps you get out of your own brain and get really curious about the other person. The other thing that I would recommend, and I believe I said this earlier, but to really make it painfully obvious, social anxiety, part of what makes it worse is by thinking this shouldn't be here. This is a problem. Like, even being ashamed of being socially anxious, being like, they're going to notice I'm nervous. That's going to be so embarrassing, going back to that earlier, right? And if we can just accept social anxiety as part of us being there when we are out with people, just like how sometimes there's rain, it's so much easier. Part of what makes social anxiety so much harder is us resisting it and us focusing on it and thinking it's such a problem. And so accepting anxiety that it's going to be there, just like how sometimes it rains outside and you're going to get some droplets on you, that's okay. So one thing I really like to do with my clients is to check in with how anxiety feels to them. And everybody's got like a different thing. Like one of my clients describes like feeling really tight. Another one just today actually described like feeling really tingly. And so being aware, like, okay, the tingles are here. Okay. Right? The people that don't have any social anxiety at all, because, and I want to say this because one, it's going to blow y'all away. It's so interesting. But two, I think we also like think social anxiety is so bad and we have to shut it off. But social anxiety is a spectrum. And on one end of the spectrum is social alertness. And we want to be alert. We want to be alert. I don't know about y'all, but I want to be aware of if somebody's not in like the standing group of the conversation, they're standing on the outside. I want to be socially aware enough so I can be like, hey, please come in the group and be a part of this conversation. If I didn't have any social alertness, I wouldn't notice things like that. And so the opposite of social anxiety is not confidence. It's psychopathy. The people that don't have any social anxiety are psychopaths.
And like the people that you don't want to hang out with.
The people you don't want to hang out with.
The people who are not socially aware. The people that are not,
Exactly.
That makes so much sense.
So, of course, they're not going to care if somebody gets included in a conversation, right? So some level of a little light like buzz there, like the social anxiety buzz, some level of social alertness, you actually want it to be there. It's what also helps you be like an empathetic and aware human.
Love that.
That's really awesome.
Wow. We could literally talk to you for like several more hours.
You guys are so fun.
We need to put on the quarter for next quarter. Do you have time for one listener question? Maybe we asked our audience to ask
that.
question.
I would love that. I do have time.
Okay. We honestly, like, a lot of their questions are things that we covered and talked about. So I think people will be so excited for this episode because they struggle with a lot of the same things that we do and a lot of the same things that everyone does. Should we do the first question? Yeah.
It's up to you.
Okay. So somebody said, I consider myself pretty non-judgmental as a person and can typically have friends that don't agree with me on everything about life. However, with the current political climate, I'm having friends go very much down the opposite path as me. I care about these friends a lot, but when they believe these crazy conspiracies or just things so far against what I believe in, I don't know what to do. Should I move away from these friendships?
That is such a good question. And with all the love in my heart, I cannot give you a direct answer. It's something that you have to be aware of on your own. And I also want to say I really feel you, whoever asked that question, because I went through a situation very similarly. My childhood best friend has completely different political views as me, and it was really uncomfortable. And also in some ways, like, I don't want to say like hurt our connection, but made me realize, okay, I need to have like to invest in a little bit more these other people that believe the things that I believe, not because I'm, like superior, if you will, like politically, but just because I need support and like to grieve like our current political situation. And so I need to be around those people a little bit more right now. However, for me, I realized that the friendship was giving me a lot and provided value in so many other ways. And I could talk to that person on what we have in common more than what we don't. And what I mean by that is not just to be blind to the other issues, if you will, that we don't have in common, but more so, I really don't think for everybody cutting people off that have different political views, I also just don't think that's going to help the situation as time goes on.
No.
Like cutting people off and just splitting like directly down the middle, I think is going to make things so much worse politically. And so that was also something I had to think about, was like, am I willing to talk to this person about other things that we have in common to get us to see from other perspectives so that we can have more cohesion and actually get things done as like a culture in the future. And for me, that was yes. However, at the same time, I also know that that's not true for everybody. So really you have to ask yourself, like, are you getting value out of these friendships in other ways? I do think point blank period, investing in other relationships where you can get support. Again, I needed to grieve, honestly, with this past election cycle. I needed to grieve. And so for me, I was like, okay, I need to just be around those people right now and focus on those relationships. I will say too, my childhood friend was very loving during that time and was like, hey, I get it. I get that you're upset. And
then that's like a good friendship that you might want to hold on to.
I feel like that's those questions
I like
are
that
great
you said providing value,
because I definitely went through the same thing as well. And like you, there's so many other things that are just like top tier about this friend that like it's not worth separating over political views.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's like a percentage of your friendship that it takes up. Like if it's the only thing they're talking about and whatnot, then that would also be an issue.
And I do believe too, especially for somebody that might be like, okay, we can, because I see this a lot online and I really agree with it. And I do think it perpetuates like cutoff culture. Like we're really quick to cut each other off. Yeah. And I think we really need to practice and normalize repair in friendships in general. But I see this thing a lot online of like, we can disagree about, music or artists, but we can't disagree about like human rights. And I agree with that. However, some people are just flat out unaware. And so by me having this relationship with this person, not that I have to get them to think exactly like me or believe exactly like me, but I can also connect on what we have in common and be like, hey, by the way, X, Y, and Z, I can throw that in there a little bit here and allow for us to like that person to expand and grow their perception. And also I think it's good for us to do that too, and to see each other as humans rather than caricatures in general, because I think it also helps you understand how we got here and what we can do. There's a book I really recommend. This is like really gonna, as if I haven't already outed my political beliefs in this conversation so far, but this is really gonna do it. There's this book called The Cult of Trump, and it's by a cult expert of 50 years.
I just saw him. I saw a video of him talking, and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't want to get that book." It was
so good. We just had a book club on it, and he, has been a cult expert again for 50 years. He was in a cult when he was younger, and he's, for years and years of this man's life, 50 years is a long time, right? He's been studying cults, and then when Trump started taking office, he then wrote this book in 2019. So I think it's really effective read for everybody, because it also allows you to be more compassionate with each other, which I think is just something we need right now. So I just want to throw that out there. Feel free to cut that if that's not good for y'all.
No,
but
I think that's so helpful, and I think that's something that a lot of our listeners are dealing with right now.
Also, I just love, as a note for you, that you use like yes and instead of yes but type of language.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this with us and talking to us. This was so interesting, and we got to get you on the books again.
I'm feeling so inspired. Yeah, like, okay, I love the consistency
if you saw Brittany
thing.
Typing, it's because she's making notes.
I was like, bookmark for next time.
I would love that so much. Y'all are so fun. And again, I love what you are an example of too, because I know like people are listening to your podcast and they are feeling close and connected with y'all, and getting to hear your stories and like feel more understood through listening to y'all. But I also just really appreciate you having me on, because I just know for a fact that there's somebody listening that's like, I want that, but I have no idea. And so for you to model it, everything I'm talking about as well, and to be an example of that, it also just shows them, hey, no, you can like really have this though. Like really, we're not just talking about it theoretically. Like here's a really great example.
Yeah, but you have to put in the work. You have to try.
Yep.
Which a lot of us are always kind of like, oh man, you really have to do it.
Well, but it works. Good like actionable things and like really good reframes, like powerful reframes that I think people can take away from this episode.
Yeah.
And actually put into practice versus being like, oh my God, that sounds really awesome. But like, how am I actually going to do anything with this?
Yeah, I do now.
Like, yay, friendship. But like, what? But now I think like this episode is such a good place for people to like reference back and everything. So I will definitely be listening and taking notes.
Yeah.
Everything.
I love it. And if I could add one more thing, because Devon, I'm actually so glad you said that, because everybody in this world right now feels like they have a lot going on, right? A lot on their plates. And so if I can offer one more piece, if you will, of actionable advice that I think will make the rest of everything we talked about today so much easier. And that is, it's so easy, especially if you have social anxiety, especially if you are rejection sensitive, to just focus on how other people have friends and you don't, to just focus on, oh, I reached out last and they didn't reach out to me, to just focus on like all of these things. It's so easy to do that, especially in our modern world where we're lonelier and like more separated than ever. And so one thing that I think would make everybody's life so much easier and allow them to do this is to, what I say, like put on your connection glasses, start to look for connection everywhere. So one thing, and I did this for a year, it radically like changed the chemistry in my brain. I believe it's Brittany, right? Studying neuroscience, right? Like I swear I have a different organ up in my noggin right now because of this. But I had a gratitude journal, and at the end of my little it was like a 5-sentence one, and I would ask myself at the end of it, just in like the margins, and I would be like, okay, what moments of connection did I experience today, and who is investing in me? And asking those 2 questions, I swear allowed me to be so much more confident, connected, increased my capacity, my ability to feel connected, but also allowed me to have a more secure attachment style, because just looking for those things, it's so much easier. It's going to be so fueling, because what do you do when you're feeling connected? You're right. You're noticing connection. You're feeling it. What do? You're more likely to do the things we talked about here today. You're more likely to behave connectedly, right? And to create those friendships. So I just want to like make sure I say that, because if anybody is listening to this that is feeling like overwhelmed or like, oh gosh, here's another thing I have to do, I just really want to take that off their plate. So thank you for letting me say that.
So
yeah.
good.
Of course. That just reminded me, actually, like, I don't know, a few years ago, I decided to, like, not be on my phone just, like, in the line at the grocery store, or if I was waiting for food at a restaurant and stuff. And it was crazy how many more just, like, little interactions I had with strangers and stuff. And that just reminded me, like, connection really is everywhere. I should start doing that again, because I've just been on my phone.
That's such a good example.
Yeah. We'll put all your social media in our description also. Do you want to... Well, Brittany.
Oh, I was just going to ask, like, how can we support you? If there's, like, anything that we can plug. Are you taking new clients or anything like that?
I am, yes. So I love working with women that have high-functioning social anxiety, that are overthinking. That is my favorite person to work with. I helped, one of my favorite examples, this was pretty recent, where I helped a girl who was, like, so anxious, like just even like existing in a coffee shop and people looking at her, and then we got her to sing in front of her entire company, right? So like those moments get me like high, right? Like helping people do that. So if you have some level of high functioning social anxiety, or if you know of anybody, I'm your girl. I will say at the time of us recording this, right, it's like March 2025. I will not have a lot of availability, as I'm starting to do different work, like with Social Prescribing USA. I'm in school to be a therapist to help people with trauma, and to eventually bring social prescribing to Michigan through a therapy license. So I will not have a ton of availability, but if you are interested, I do consults, and I do consults because I want to make sure we're a good fit and that you're at an appropriate place. So I just always recommend signing up for one because worst case scenario, I just point you in a direction that's like a good fit for you. So
love that.
And just listening to your podcast and following your social media and stuff, I feel like people can get good tips and hear more of this.
1,000%. Yeah. Yeah. And the podcast is called the Socially Delightful Podcast. And, you know, maybe I can convince everybody here to come on and come hang out. So.
Oh, yeah. That. We love to. We could have all three of us talking at once.
The best.
So good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.